how long do you think, whenever this war ends, it's going to take to actually do enough rebuilding so that people can live in anything other than tents? And do you have any suggestions? Thank you.
I think we need to back up a little bit from October of 2023 because the question of how much of Gaza has been destroyed should not give the mistaken impression of assuming that Gaza was fully built and intact before that. No part of Palestine, whether it's East Jerusalem or West Bank or Gaza, have been exempt from a gradual and sometimes violent pummeling given by Israel using military force or using home demolitions, which have been a chief tool of occupation and land annexation, including settlement activity in the West Bank over decades. So let's not first give the impression that Gaza was a fully built, untouched urban environment. It was an urban environment. 77.6% of Gaza was urban. So it was partially ruined landscape. All of Palestine was partially ruined even before October of 2023. And what we have seen since October in the last 1 year is a biblical, unprecedented form of reign of destruction, the kind of which I have not seen in any modern conflict. And I've been studying and researching international relations for 30 years. I've not seen any conflict resemble the ferocity of what we have witnessed, not in Aleppo, not in Homs, not in Ukraine where we are seeing. And going back to World War II, if you compare the destruction of Dresden, or if you compare the destruction of Amsterdam or Cologne, nothing comes close to the scale and the intensity of destruction that we have seen. And in terms of how much of Gaza is destroyed is at this stage a kind of a difficult sort of game, because we knew back in January of 2024 that 60 to 70% of all homes have been destroyed in Gaza already, with areas in northern Gaza destroyed up to 82%. This was based on satellite imagery that I reviewed carefully. So the issue is that it is far worse than that right now. Given that almost the entire population of Gaza is displaced, the level of destruction in certain areas of Gaza, particularly northern Gaza, is approaching levels of 100%. It's not 70% anymore. And one has to ask, what is really the goal or the military objective of destruction of this scale, which no other military power in any recent conflict has seen necessary in order to win a war? If truly what's going on in Gaza is a war, the purpose of war is victory. But what is the metric of victory here? I've been unable to understand given the scale of this destruction. And I've noticed, especially as I said earlier, even with my remarks about resettlement, the increasing number of conflicts where, because of planetary urbanization, more and more people just live in urban areas. Built environment gets hit during warfare, far more than, for example, the old conflicts with trench warfare where troops would fight, outside of cities, facing each other. That's not warfare anymore. We are not in World War I anymore. And with some exceptions, for example, the conflict in Sudan or the conflict that we've been seeing in Myanmar, because of the large percentage of rural populations that are on the receiving end of the military actions, we don't find the level of physical destruction that we see, say, in Ukraine or in Gaza. But the reality is that in most countries, increasingly, as countries become more and more urbanized, Gaza is going to be the future of the planet. If we don't stop it now, this is what we are looking at. So then we come to your question, how long will it take then to get out of this? What do we do about all this rubble? And a recent UNDP report estimated that there are over 39 million tons of debris as of May of this year. The debris is as much as, if you stack them up vertically, it's about 8 times the height of the entire Central Park of New York, or 11 times the volume of the Great Pyramid of Giza. So we are talking a level of rubble mixed with unexploded ordnances, toxic waste, asbestos from, for example, collapsed buildings that are yet to be assessed, let alone be cleared. The groundwater pollution and the soil contamination are so catastrophic that we don't know if they can ever be remedied in time for people to move back, at least within this generation. So there is the issue of debris removal, and then there is the issue of generating enough sort of not just financial resources, which is enormous at this stage, that is needed for rebuilding, but also the human resources necessary for rebuilding the territory. There is another big elephant in the room, which is that no reconstruction of any kind can happen unless the occupation ends. Because the reality is that in any of the past attempts at rebuilding after wars were unleashed on Gaza, very little rebuilding could go on because of the supply on, say, dual-use materials or the restrictions on, say, earth-moving equipment to come in to push the debris out of the way. Large trucks are needed, for example, but everything is seen by Israel as dual use, and they are the ones who approve what comes in and what goes out. And when you have a situation like that, what you end up with is what we saw after 2014, after the 2014 war on Gaza. Between 2014 and 2019, how many homes were built every year? Less than 1,000 homes. So the UNDP report recent report that looked at estimated time to rebuild Gaza gives it a timeline of about 80 years. Assuming that occupation continues, it's about 1,000 homes a year you can do. Because why? Because the destruction is estimated by UNDP to have about 79,000 houses, about 80,000 houses roughly. So you're looking really at 80 years if occupation continues. So any way to systematically and rapidly get out of the current situation within the lifetime of the smallest child in Gaza right now involves ending the occupation now. Otherwise, that child will never see his or her home rebuilt ever again. That's basically where we are.